Good evening and welcome to Junior-Senior Parent Information Night. As with all things at Spellman, we're going to start this evening with a prayer. And I'd like to call Father Peter Pilsner, our Director of Spiritual Activities and Chaplain, up to the podium to start off today's meeting.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Gracious Father, we come to you at the beginning of this academic year with our many thoughts, expectations, fears, and hopes. Help us to remember that we have the comforting assurance from you, I will be with you always. Faithful God, this beginning is completely new for some among us. Turn the sadness of our COVID experiences to openness to new friends and opportunities. Turn our anxiety into a quiet confidence in the way you have blessed us in the past. Give us a new perspective to see persons, events, and academic work as an invitation to develop the many gifts you have given us to be used in service of others. Creator God, bless our students with your gifts of awe and wonder at the friends they have made, the way their minds and hearts will be formed, and the many opportunities that lie ahead. Give them the gift of discernment to make right choices about the future. And finally, Father, give to each member of the Spellman community the gift of your abundant love. Amen. May God bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Pilsner. As most of you know, my name is Mr. O'Keefe, and I've had the honor of serving as your president at Cardinal Spellman High School for the past several months. It's a bit of a change for Spellman since I was both president and principal for the last 7 years. My current responsibility is now more focused on financial viability, public relations, and alumni affairs to make sure that Spellman continues to thrive for the next 10, 20, 30 or more years. Our new principal, Ms. Jeri Faulkner, whom I will introduce in a moment, is responsible for Spellman's academic success and the day-to-day operations of the school. I want to start off by thanking all of you for participating in this evening's virtual parent meeting. The administration is truly excited to tell you about the wonderful things happening this year. There are a few important guidelines to keep in mind so that we maintain the health and safety of all members of the Spellman community. We must follow the CDC guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Every student, teacher, and staff member is responsible for every other person in this building. Social distancing, wearing a mask, not touching one's face, and washing one's hands are simple rules to follow, but they have a powerful effect on stopping coronavirus in its tracks. Your child's individual behavior will become the most effective defense against the virus. Our goal is to keep everyone healthy. The best way to accomplish this is for each of us to demonstrate individual responsibility by protecting ourselves and others. It is absolutely imperative that if any student experiences any flu-like symptoms, fever, cough, chills, nausea, etc., that they stay at home. We have hand washing and hand sanitization stations placed throughout the school, and students are encouraged to regularly wash their hands as a way to remove germs, avoid getting sick, and prevent the spread of germs to others. The overall success of this school year will require each of us working closely together, listening to one another's concerns, and doing our part to contribute to a positive, healthy, and safe school environment. Even with COVID-19 permeating every aspect of what we do, we are going to be able to help your sons and daughters achieve the success that both you and they desire. Junior and senior years are critical times in our children's lives. College looms just over the horizon, and everything our children do is crucial to the college admissions process. Schoolwork, after-school activities, teams, clubs, volunteer work, and a social life all have to fit into the context of academic achievement. Juniors will take the PSAT this year, which will also count as a National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. The junior year report card is the first set of grades a college will see when they receive a transcript. Seniors will take the SAT and the ACT. They'll be writing admissions essay and applying to colleges. Most of the seniors will be done with this process in just a few short months. And then you, the parents and guardians, will be trying the best way to figure out how to pay for college and trying to get the best financial aid possible. We all work together, administrators and parents, to set the tone for this year. Tonight, we reopen the doors of communication that will enable your sons and daughters to reach their full potential. I know that you're all aware of this, but it bears repeating. It is with your support that your children achieve better academically, function better socially, and grow in the mature Christian values that we work to instill in them. In a few minutes, you're going to hear much more about the college search and application process from Ms. Maria Piri, our Assistant Principal for Guidance. That will be followed by an important session on financial aid for college. But before that, I do want to share just a brief note about our college credit program. Juniors and seniors have the opportunity to take college credit in Spanish, English, social studies, and math. Courses can be worth anywhere from 3 to 5 credits and are offered through St. John's University. More importantly, these credits are official college credits, and they transfer to about 95% of the colleges in this country. In fact, the transcripts for these courses come directly from St. John's, not from Spellman. When you add this to our rigorous advanced placement program, which gives even more opportunities for college credit, every year we have students who graduate start college with at least 1 or 2 semesters of college coursework completed while still in high school. And the best part, they're saving their parents up to a year of college tuition. Our students are also successful in applying for scholarships. Last year, the graduating class earned over $43 million in scholarships. That amount is unparalleled in the Archdiocese of New York. Because of our reputation, we've invited some of the top colleges to speak to your sons and daughters. Among them, almost every Ivy League college will set up visits, and those visits will be virtual if necessary. And I'm thrilled to share all of this with you because one of our primary goals here at Spellman is to prepare your sons and daughters for college. We will do everything we can do to help them succeed. All we ask is that you share in the process. I'm looking forward to an incredible year, and I ask you to please reach out to the administration if you have any questions. And now, I'm very happy to introduce our new principal, Ms. Jeri Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe. The last time I spoke to you, your sons and daughters were boys and girls. They were freshmen and sophomores. For many of you, high school was a brand new experience, and it became an even bigger experience, one that we didn't really anticipate. Now, your sons and daughters are young men and young women. I am happy in my new role. I am excited that these seniors are my first seniors. I taught them when they were freshmen. I taught the juniors also when they were freshmen. So I am looking forward to where they will take me. Because though I'm a teacher, or now a principal, you always learn every year from your students. They're always different, they're always exciting, and they are always teaching you something new. As always, we've put a lot of expectations on our senior class. They are the role models for all of the other students, especially our freshmen and sophomores who have not been in the building yet. It is a big responsibility, but so far they've risen to it. Our juniors are navigating their way, having been in Spellman for approximately 7 months when they were freshmen. But they too are rising to the occasion and showing others the way. Now what we need to do is focus on academics. That's what tonight is about, forging forward, continuing, and as always with Spellman, excelling. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Principal for Academics, Miss Emily Padilla Bradley. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Good evening and welcome to the Junior Senior Parent Information Night. I'm Ms. Padilla Bradley, Assistant Principal for Academics. I'm very proud to be the Assistant Principal for Academics here at Cardinal Spellman, and this is my first year. Congratulations on making it through the most challenging past 2 years with your children. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for you as parents. It wasn't easy for them, and it wasn't easy for us. But somehow we have gotten to this point where all we can do is move forward positively. For the junior parents, you may know that junior year is the most important, as we have heard throughout our entire lives. And I want you to know that to some degree it is the most important, but also know that every year of high school counts. Every year of high school matters, and that includes senior year. For the parents of seniors, yes, senior year matters. Sometimes the seniors think, oh, we made it through junior year, it doesn't matter now. It does matter. So your sons and daughters should continue working very, very hard to accomplish their goals and to make the most and the best of their last year of their high school career. There is a great extra academic support system here at Spellman, especially now, after what we have gone through. So I want you to know that your students are encouraged, they are invited to communicate with us, to let us know what struggles they're experiencing. We have in place, and we are going to continue to put more measures in place to help the students as best as we can after this COVID experience that we've had. Encourage them to communicate with their teachers first, encourage them to communicate with their guidance counselors, and encourage them to communicate with the rest of the administration. One of the new things that we have at Spellman this year, which no one has experienced before, and when I say no one, I include the administration, the faculty, and the students, and you as parents, and that is our learning management system. You have been accustomed to Home Logic. That is gone. There is no more Home Logic. We are now on a system called Power School. And with Power School, you as parents have the opportunity to open up your account and look at your child's progress throughout the entire year. Throughout, for the juniors, that's for the next 2 years. For the seniors, it's for the rest of this year. Some of your sons and daughters may have already opened up their accounts because passwords and usernames were sent out last weekend. I encourage you, if you have not done so yet, please use the information that was emailed to you. Use that information to open up Power School. Parents have their own sign-in credentials. Those are different for the students. So you and your child each have credentials to sign into Power School. And what you're going to see on Power School is every single grade live as it is on your child's record. So, for example, you will see what your child has in math as of today. You will see what your child has in English and science, etc., as of today. You will get alerts when something is submitted by a teacher. So I really, really encourage you. It's a great system. It's user-friendly. And if you have not signed in yet, please do so that you can see your child's entire record, including attendance records. Okay, so if by some chance you have not received that, that information was sent to the email that we have on file for you here at Spellman. If you have not received that, please reach out to us to let us know, and we will work very hard to make sure that you have that information. There is also a hard copy that was just mailed out, so you should be receiving what was sent in the email. You should be receiving that in regular mail as well. I want to emphasize some homework for you, the parents. And one homework assignment for you is to check the academic calendar that is on the school's website. That academic calendar indicates very important dates, specifically the dates in which each quarter begins and ends, as well as the dates of progress reports. So again, every bit of that information you will find on PowerSchool Live. The other homework you have, and that's for the entire year, is to be on PowerSchool. Check it at any time of the day, whenever you have an opportunity. Check PowerSchool so that you are updated on every bit of information on the academics of your child. Please remember that the academic records are records that were created by your child. Whatever they earned in their freshman and sophomore years, that's on their record already. What they're going to earn now as juniors and seniors will be on their record as well. Those are permanent academic records that will stay with them forever. It's their name on that record. It's what they have earned in their high school career, okay? And as you know, it's what colleges will look at. So please emphasize the importance of that to your children, because sometimes they forget that this is going to be documented, that their final grade is documented on a permanent record. Okay, and with that, I want to congratulate you on just making it through the past 2 years. It was very, very difficult. It is great. It is amazing to see students in the building. It is phenomenal that we are getting back slowly into education as we know it. And with that, I want to say good night and good luck to you as parents and good luck to your children. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Principal for Guidance, Ms. Maria Peary.
Before I speak tonight, I'd like to introduce our new athletic director, Mr. Kyle O'Donnell. He's going to say a few words about our athletic programs.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight virtually with us for this welcome back to one of the most extraordinary years that we have. It's extraordinary in a lot of the ways that Ms. Padilla Bradley was talking about. We're all back. And to me, that is one of the greatest things that could have ever happened. We're now moving forward in a very safe, cautious, but progressive manner. And one of the things that goes with that hand in hand are athletics. So I'm here just to introduce myself now as athletic director, not as assistant principal of academics, and to say that with junior and senior year, this is the time. If a student hasn't gotten involved in clubs, activities, sports yet, this is a great time to do that. You're going to hear a lot of great information from, about moving forward, about the future. And every student should really think about doing a club activity or sport in order to really kind of help them showcase all of the talents that they have. It really helps with a college resume, with transcript, to have extracurricular activities on there. So I look forward to working with you this year and for the junior parents the following year as well. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sending your child to Cardinal Spellman High School and entrusting us with their safety, their education, and their well-being. So I'd like to say thank you, and as always, go Pilots. And now I'd like to bring up Ms. Maria Peary, Assistant Principal for Guidance, to begin an amazing talk that will really be beneficial to everyone in the college process. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. That's a little bit of pressure, but thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Welcome to Junior and Senior Parent Night. My name is Maria Peary, and I am the Assistant Principal of Guidance. I'm the one that's sending you all the emails regarding college, scholarships, and any other information that's important to junior and senior students. Tonight, I'm going to break my presentation into two parts. First, I'll be addressing the junior parents about what to expect in junior year and how you can better be prepared for college. The second part of my presentation will be the overview of the college process. I welcome junior parents to stay with us. The more you hear about the college process, the more comfortable it will become. We are also happy to have with us tonight Mr. Brian Ghanoo. He is the Assistant Vice President of, I don't want to get this wrong, the Office of Student Financial Services at Fordham University. He's going to speak about the financial aid process, including FAFSA. This presentation can be watched again on the Cardinal Spellman YouTube channel in case you missed anything during the presentation. So let's begin. We have a lot of information for you. Okay, let's start with the basics. Your child has had the same guidance counselor since freshman year. The caseload for the guidance counselors are done alphabetically. Next slide. This is the guidance department phone number with emails and extensions. The guidance department has Mr. George Spence, Miss Maria Umbro, Miss Annette Stabile, Mrs. Diana Rivera, and Miss Amory Norberto, who is the Assistant Director of Guidance. If you need to reach them at any time, you can always call them or email them. Juniors, class of 2023. As you heard from the past speakers, this year is serious. Your cumulative GPA, which is based on your freshman, sophomore, and junior year grades, are the grades that the college admissions officers will see. If your first 2 years were not good academically, this is your year to improve. College reps like to see a progression of grades over years. It shows maturity. It shows that you are trying harder academically. You need to continue to build your college resume. Get involved in athletics and clubs. Mr. O'Donnell just spoke about athletics. Mr. Smith, if you have any questions about clubs, you can meet with him. The next thing, juniors, is test prep for either the ACT or the SAT. The class of 2022 was test optional. Some schools are remaining test optional, but not all schools at this point. So you should prepare as if you're going to be taking these tests in the spring, the summer, and in the fall. And what test optional means is that students are not required to submit their standardized test scores on their college admissions application. Whether to do so is up to the student for the class of 2022. Going test optional doesn't mean that the college won't look at scores, but just that it doesn't require them. Okay, juniors, you should start building your college list, and we'll get into that in the spring when we do our junior seminar. Also, virtual college visits. We're going to have colleges visiting us virtually. Announcements will be made in the morning and posted in your classrooms, your 2022 Google Classroom, the 2023 Google Classroom, as well as the guidance Google Classrooms. These visits will occur during the lunch periods. Next slide. The PSAT is going to be administered to all juniors October 13th. The PSAT is a preliminary scholastic aptitude test. It's a practice SAT. Your child will be exposed to SAT-type questions, and your child has received a PSAT study guide. Practice questions from the guide. Their math and English teachers are going over SAT-style questions in their classes. Okay, the PSAT is the same format as the SAT. There is a section for math, and there's a section for English. If you have a high PSAT test score, you can qualify for the National Merit Scholarship Program, as well as other scholarship and recognition programs. 23 students from the class of 2022 were recognized as African American and Hispanic scholars. During the first week of December, the PSAT score reports will be released. You'll be using your score reports as a study guide for test prep. The score report will note how you did on the math and English sections and what areas need improvement. Next slide. The highest score you can receive on the PSAT is a 1520. The English has a maximum of 760 points, and the math has a maximum score of 760 points. You can look at the slide for what math is on it: Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and some trigonometry. English tests grammar, vocabulary. It also tests reading comprehension, command of evidence, and analytical skills. Next slide. As I said earlier, the guidance department will be conducting junior seminar with juniors in the spring. We'll be going into 2 to 3 classes. We will introduce your children to Naviance, where they will start listing colleges. We're going to start them on their resumes, but they need to complete those resumes so that teachers have something to refer to when they're writing their letters of recommendation. And just an aside, I would tell your children to ask for those letters of recommendation before they leave in the summer, in person and on Naviance. Teachers get very busy in the fall, so they need to really ask for those letters early. We're also going to introduce your children to the Common Application. This is an application portal that is accepted by more than 900 colleges and universities. The Common Application opens August 1st, 2022. On the Common Application, your child will also be asked to write an essay. They will be writing an essay on 1 out of 7 questions that is on the essay prompts. We ask your child to also complete the family section with a family member so that it's done correctly. And just a reminder, the City University of New York schools, the CUNY schools, Lehman, Hunter, Baruch, they do not accept the Common Application as a college application. The junior to-do list. I broke this up into the fall and spring and the summer. In the fall, juniors, and spring, you should be researching colleges. You're going to take the PSAT October 13th. You should also sign up for the spring and summer SAT after doing test prep. We're going to be doing the junior seminar and develop a list of approximately 15 to 20 colleges of interest. In the summer, you should be looking for employment or volunteer opportunities. This is to build that college resume. You can visit colleges in person, hopefully. More colleges are opening up to small group visits. You're going to be creating and finishing that resume on Naviance during the summer, creating a Common Application account, and you can start your Common Application on August 1st and begin brainstorming the Common Application essay questions. Because in September of your senior year, that will be your first writing assignment in your English classes. Next slide. Here are the SAT dates and the anticipated dates for the summer. For seniors, the last SAT date is usually that December 4th date because the last regular decisions are usually due by the middle of February. Next slide. Next slide is the ACT dates. Junior parents, the junior parents can look at, your child will probably be taking the June, July, and ACT has not come out with summer dates as of yet. Once I get those dates, I'll be emailing them out to let you know. Junior parents, the next part of this presentation is about the overview of the college process. You are welcome to stay, to listen, and we'll be going over the college process with junior parents also in the spring and then again in the fall. We are hearing from our seniors that they are stressed, they don't feel prepared, and from some parents, I think. We've been meeting with seniors individually and in groups to assist them with the college process. When they come to see their guidance counselors, they need to be prepared. And when I say prepared, I mean they need to create a common application account, and they should have begun their common application already. They need to continue to work on their essays. They can also go to Naviance to list their colleges that they are thinking about or colleges they are applying to. With more than 5,000 colleges and universities in the United States, what is the right fit for your child? The most important question, will I be happy here, and can I see myself walking around campus and being involved in the community? The colleges listed are the colleges and universities that the class of 2021 are attending. We are very confident that the class of 2022 will be as successful or more successful than the class of 2021. Okay, I'm going to just give you some basic terms. Different types of colleges. There are four-year colleges and two-year colleges. A four-year college program leads to a bachelor's degree. There are private colleges and public colleges. With private colleges, they don't receive funding from the state. They are funded by private donors and endowment funds. A private college, their tuition is generally higher than public universities, but they offer more substantial tuition discounts to fund grants and scholarships. Private colleges are generally smaller in size, a few thousand students, and class sizes are usually smaller. Some examples of private colleges in our area are St. John's, Manhattan, Iona, and Fordham University. Public colleges are funded by the state. Tuition is lower, but they tend to give less money in grants. Enrollment is sometimes larger. Our public colleges in New York State are the State Universities of New York and the City Universities of New York. They include Lehman, Hunter, SUNY Albany, and Stony Brook. Parents, don't dissuade your child from applying to private schools because of the cost of tuition. You need to compare financial aid packages from private and public colleges and then make your decision. And then we have Ivy League colleges, UPenn, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, Columbia, and Princeton. These are highly competitive colleges, and usually they accept the top of the class. And we have two-year colleges or community and county schools, which lead to an associate's degree. That would be Westchester Community College, Bronx Community College. What are student decision factors? Well, the first factor that applies would be the interest or major. What is the size of the school? The location of the school. Does your child want to go to a urban setting, suburban setting, or a rural setting. The distance from home. Do they want to come home every weekend, or do they just want to see you during Thanksgiving and Christmas? The diversity of the school. Do people look like me? Extracurricular activities. This is huge on these bigger campuses where your child's social life is built around the extracurricular activities. The entrance requirements. Does your child have the academic standards that is required to go to that school? Does your child want to go to a public or a private school? And usually the bottom line for your decision on where your child is going to school is the amount of tuition it will cost. All this information can be found on Naviance. Next slide. We ask your child to apply to between 6 to 8 schools, reach schools, match schools, and safety schools. The reach schools is where the admissions criteria exceeds your child's credentials. The match schools is where the admissions criteria resembles your child's credentials, and a safety school is where the admissions criteria is lower than your child's credentials. You can apply to as many schools as you want, but just keep in mind that every school you apply to has an application fee. All right, there are 3 ways in which your child would be applying to college. You can apply early action, early decision, and regular decision. Early action and early decision are very similar except for one difference. Both deadlines are usually November 1st or November 15th. You will receive the college decision by mid-December. Applying early are for students who have been working on their applications in the summer and are now finishing up their common application essay. Early action is a non-binding agreement. It just means your applications are done early and you're ready to send these applications out to the colleges by the beginning of November. And you will receive the admissions decision by the middle of December. Early decision is a binding decision. This means that you know without a doubt you're going to go to that college if you're accepted. Okay, the pools, the early action, early decision pools are generally smaller but competitive pools for the candidates. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of applying early. The pros of applying early, it's a stress-free senior year because you'll know your decision of the schools by December 15th. Also, with selective schools, there's a slightly higher acceptance rate during early decision. The cons is that you won't have the opportunity to compare financial aid packages. And this is not for students who want to compare different financial aid packages from different schools. And applying early is not for your child if they need to show the schools their senior year grades so that they can show the colleges that there's been an improvement in their grades. Next slide. Okay, what are colleges looking for? Well, most college admissions reps will tell you that they have a holistic admissions process. They're looking at the whole student applicant and not just their GPAs and test scores, okay? As I told you, if your child took the SAT and ACT, they can forward those scores through the College Board to their colleges that they want to apply to. But for the class of 2022, the majority of schools were test optional. You can find these schools on fairtest.org. It lists over 1,000 test optional colleges. Okay. As I said before, test optional doesn't mean colleges won't look at scores, they just don't require them. The next thing that the colleges are looking for is your essay. The essay is your story. This is your chance to let the admissions reps know about you. You're also going to be asking 2 teachers for letters of recommendations. You don't have to ask your guidance counselor because they will automatically write you that letter of recommendation. And as I said earlier, we haven't received information for the class of 2023, so prepare as if you're taking the SAT. This is the year that you're going to be doing extracurricular activities, community service, and campus visits. The anatomy of college application. We know that it's a daunting process, and I'm going to go over some do's and don'ts so you can avoid getting passed over by admissions offices. All this information can be found on collegechoice.net. Okay. The typical acceptance rate is 65% for colleges or universities in the United States. The more selective schools are much lower. For instance, Harvard is about a 4% acceptance rate and NYU is 19%. This information can be found on Naviance, along with the average net price or tuition based on income, graduation rate, and application deadlines. Breaking down the college application. The Common Application has 6 sections. There's a profile section, a family section, education, a testing section, activities, and the writing section. Just a few things. As I said before, the Common Application is a portal for most of your college applications, but just keep in mind, every application has a different application fee, typically $35 to $70. We will also be sending out your high school transcripts with your application, and colleges also want a completed FAFSA, but Mr. Ghanoo will be talking more about that in a second. The FAFSA opens on October 1st. Since over 1,000 colleges are test optional, a well-written essay is more important than ever. Some schools will also ask for a personal statement in addition to the Common Application essay. This will be on the college's application if they want a personal statement also. Your child will answer 1 of 7 essay questions on the Common Application. The Common Application essay has been an assignment for seniors in their English classes, and I believe the assignment is due within the next 2 weeks. Make that essay a first-person story. And give examples on your abilities instead of just listing them. Your English teachers will be working with you on these essays. Please ask for their critique and how you can improve those essays. Okay. Things to avoid. Deadlines, deadlines, deadlines. Make sure to check the deadlines for every college you're applying to. Use professional email addresses. This person used Spanky1234. I've heard worse, but use professional email addresses. Your child can use their school email address on their college applications. Delete inappropriate social media accounts, and parents, try to monitor your child's accounts. Check for typos and misspellings, and don't forget to sign or digitally sign your applications. Okay, so let's recap. Student and family responsibilities. You are responsible to complete the Common Application or any other application via the school's websites. You're responsible to write your college essay, request a transcript from the guidance department by filling out a transcript request form. This form can be found in your guidance Google Classroom. You're also requesting the transcript on Naviance. You're responsible to pay the application fee, or if you're eligible for a fee waiver, your child can see me in the guidance office with the 2020-1040 income tax form. If your child is an athlete, they need to register with the NCAA, and they can see Mr. Spence. And again, FAFSA, the filing begins October 1st. And students are responsible for sending their standardized test scores. This is a senior to-do list. Okay, you're going to start listing your colleges on Naviance. You need to start your applications, complete your essay, request letters of recommendation from your teachers. And once again, the college reps will be visiting Spellman virtually during lunch periods. The meeting links can be found in the class of 2022 and the class of 2023 Google Classroom, as well as the guidance Google Classroom. There will also be announcements made in the morning. And the last slide is the 5 stages of applying to college: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So parents, I know that this is a lot of information. If you need any assistance, feel free to either email me, call your guidance counselors, or email them, and we'll get right back to you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Ghanoo, once again, who is the Assistant Vice President from the Office of Student Financial Services at Fordham University. Mr. Ghanoo will talk about the financial aid process, including FAFSA.
Thank you, Ms. Peary. I have to say, if I may, I'm always impressed when I come to Cardinal Spellman with the administration and how invested that they are in the success of their students. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this event tonight. Again, my name is Brian Ghanoo. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Financial Services at Fordham University. Tonight we'll be talking to you about the financial aid application process. Our agenda is going to cover some basic financial aid concepts, applying for financial aid, so specifically the FAFSA application and the New York State payment application, understanding your financial aid offer letter, a wonderful tool that you have available to you called a net price calculator, and at the conclusion we'll open it up for some question and answers. Feel free to use the chat feature that you have in your Zoom browser to start submitting those questions, and we will respond to as many as we can tonight. Let's talk about some basic concepts and terms. The first one we're going to talk about is the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is made up of direct charges and indirect charges. This is what you can expect for your child to pay for college in their first year. Direct charges are tuition and fees, room and board. That's what the school is billing you for directly. Okay, looks like I might have skipped a slide, or no, actually, yes, I did. I'm sorry. We're talking about the financial aid philosophy. Let's go back to that slide for a second. I apologize. When it comes to paying for college, it is the responsibility, it's the primary responsibility of the family. The federal government, the state government, and the institutions that you're applying to will help assist in paying for those costs. How do we measure your ability to pay? This is done through the financial aid applications. The financial aid applications are going to collect data from both the student and the parent, and they're going to use an analysis to help institutions determine what a family can contribute towards their child's education. The federal government and the state governments are also going to use those applications to do similar calculations. We use this data to distribute financial aid across students in an equitable fashion, providing a balance of both gift aid, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, and self-help aid. Now let's get to the cost of attendance on the next slide. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the cost of attendance is what you can expect to pay for 1 year at the institution that you're looking at. The cost of attendance is made up of direct charges and indirect charges. Direct charges are the charges that an institution bills you for: tuition and fees, room and meals if you're living on campus. Indirect charges are charges that you pay on your own that are associated with the college experience: purchasing of books, transportation back and forth to campus. If you're living on campus, you might need to have your toiletries, your sheets, your towels, that sort of stuff. Your financial aid is determined on those costs or estimates of those costs. Next term we're going to talk about is the expected family contribution. The expected family contribution, or EFC, is determined when you fill out the FAFSA application, right? Your EFC is an index that is used to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. The EFC is based on the asset and income information that you list on the FAFSA for both the student and the parent. Other factors are also important and have an impact on the EFC. For example, the number in the household and the number in college. The EFC is the amount the federal government feels your family can contribute to your higher education expenses. It is often thought of that the EFC is what you actually pay for college, and that's a myth. That's one of our myths. Your EFC might be zero. That doesn't mean your college experience is going to be free. That means that the school and the federal governments and the local governments are going to use that to determine your financial aid eligibility. However, that does not mean your college experience will be free. We'll talk more about that a little bit later when we go through some examples. So now that we have the EFC from your FAFSA application, we subtract it from your cost of attendance, and we calculate your financial need. So in our example here, if an institution's cost of attendance is $23,600, and the EFC based upon the FAFSA application data is $7,000, your financial need is $16,600. This is what the institution is going to use to try to award your aid up to that amount of money. There are times when they can do that with the resources that they have, and there are times where they will not be able to meet full need. Let's talk about the financial aid applications. The main application that you're going to need to complete is the FAFSA application. When you're preparing to complete the FAFSA application, you want to make sure that you have all of the data handy and ready to go as you complete the application. You always have the ability to save where you are and come back to the application. However, it's always helpful to have all of the key pieces of information with you as you go through the application. It's going to make the experience a lot easier for you. So things you're going to need, the 22-23 FAFSA application is based upon income earned in the 2020 calendar year. So you're going to need to have your 2020 U.S. income tax return for both the student and the parent, if the student filed and worked. All 2020 W-2 forms, federal W-2 forms. You should have the current balances of your checking and savings accounts, because it's going to ask you for asset information. If you have any investments, you should have the net worth of those investments when you're ready to complete the application. Any untaxed income that you may have received in 2020, if you're going to need your Social Security number and your driver's license number. and the list of schools that you'll be applying to. You're going to need to know those. As you start to prepare to enter and complete the FAFSA application, you're going to need something called the FSA ID. This is your electronic signature. Both the student and the parent need a FSA ID. And the website to create your FSA ID is right here on this slide. A couple of tips here for you parents. The FSA ID is very unique. So we always have the situation we come across where a parent is creating the FSA ID for themselves and for the student. And at times they create the student's FSA ID and the parent uses their email address. When they then go to create their own FSA ID, the Department of Education will reject it because they're saying that someone else has an ID with that email address. So always have the student create their own FSA ID using their own email address, not a parent's email address. A couple of reasons why you want to do this. This FSA ID carries with you for your life. So as your child is entering post-secondary education at an undergraduate university or college, they're going to use this FSA ID. When they go on to graduate school, they're going to use this same FSA ID. When they become a parent and they're helping their child complete the FAFSA application, this is going to be their FSA ID. So this FSA ID is for your lifetime. We recommend that you do not use a high school email address for the students when you create this FSA ID. I don't know Cardinal Spellman's policy. However, some institutions deactivate their high school email addresses after a certain point in time. If you're a parent and you forget your FSA ID and you want to reset it, if you use your high school email address, the reset email will go to that address and you won't have access to that address anymore. So when you're setting up these IDs, do not use your high school accounts when creating them. So the FAFSA application, again, this is an application that you have to complete annually, every year. The website is on this slide here for you. The FAFSA application I don't want you to feel daunted by the length of the application or just the mystery behind it. There's lots of help when you're completing the application. There's FAQs on the federal government's website. There's help, which we'll talk a little bit about a little bit later and show you some screenshots. And there's also a 1-800 number that you can call if you have any questions or need assistance. So please don't be too concerned about the length or the mystique behind completing the FAFSA application. And again, this is an application you're going to need to complete every year. The application opens up on October 1st. Again, you want to make sure, Ms. Peary mentioned the deadlines. That's very, very important. You want to go out to all of the schools that you're looking to apply to and make sure that you understand their filing deadlines. You want to maximize your consideration for all aid, so make sure that you complete the application accurately and that you submit it by the deadline. You have to complete the FAFSA online. The great thing about the application being online is that there's skip logic, so that as you go through the application and you answer questions, if later questions along the application aren't applicable to you, you will bypass those. And when you go to submit the application, they will do an edit check. So if you're missing anything, it will take you back to those questions. One of the things that we recommend as you're completing the FAFSA application is using the IRS data retrieval tool. This tool allows the IRS to import your tax data into the FAFSA application. This is a safe and secure process, and it ensures the accuracy of the data. The Department of Education and institutions love when you use the data retrieval tool because they know the data is accurate. When students use this tool, it also reduces errors and the probability of the file being selected by the Department of Education for an audit called verification. Before you are allowed to import the data from the IRS, there is an authentication process, and the transfer is immediate. So please use that process to advance your application and make sure it's accurate, and also increase the speed that you're completing it at. The next slide here is going to show you a screenshot of the FAFSA application website at studentaid.gov. Important piece of information to know is that there are 2 active years right now for the FAFSA application. Students can still complete the 21-22 application, and beginning October 1st, they can complete the 22-23 application. So make sure that when you start to complete the application, you're completing the 22-23 application. This is for our seniors. Our juniors obviously can't complete the application at this point in time. We always have a couple of families that complete the wrong application and miss deadlines. So make sure you pay attention to the year that you're completing on the application. As I mentioned to you earlier, we were talking about the help that's available as you go through the FAFSA application. So this is just another screenshot that just gives you an idea of what you're going to see. As you get to each question, in this case, we're talking about tax return data. It's going to point you to the fields that you need to gather that information from your tax return if you're not using the IRS data retrieval tool to enter the answer into those questions. So there's lots of support for you there. Once you complete the FAFSA application, you're going to get a screenshot of what the output is going to look like. And immediately you're going to have an idea of what your expected family contribution is going to be down at the bottom. So that's a very helpful tool for you to gauge where you are as far as what your need is going to be. For New York State residents who list a New York State school on the FAFSA, you will also see a link to complete the New York State aid payment application. This is your application for TAP. If you're a New York State student and you list a school in New York, that on your FAFSA you will get this link. If you're a New York State student and you list schools outside of New York State, TAP is not transportable to those institutions. TAP is only available to New York State students attending a New York State school. Similar to the FAFSA application, you're going to need a PIN for New York State to complete the application. This is called a HESC PIN. Same advice that I would give you with the FSA ID when you're setting up your PIN. You're going to need 2 PINs, one for the parent, one for the student, and make sure that, again, you're not double dipping on the email addresses when you're setting up your PIN. So now that we've completed your FAFSA application and your New York State payment application, what happens next? Those applications are sent electronically to the institutions that you list on those applications. The FAFSA application, I believe you can list up to 10 schools. The New York State payment application, you can only list 1 school. So I would recommend that if you're leaning towards one particular school, you use that school on your New York State payment application. You can always go and change it if you change your mind to a different school by filling out a correction form. As the schools receive these forms electronically, they review them and they make sure everything looks accurate and makes sense. We're verifying the information essentially of what you're putting down. If the school has any questions on the data, they will reach out to you via a letter pre-COVID. Now most schools are reaching out to students via email. So it's always important to make sure that when you're completing your admission applications to the universities and colleges you're looking at, that you're monitoring your email addresses to make sure if the schools are communicating with you for additional follow-up information, that you respond timely to that. If we request information from you, we want you to respond to it rather quickly so that we can get it back from you and determine your eligibility for financial aid. If we don't need any additional information from you, we're going to determine your eligibility for both federal, state, and institutional financial aid. And we're going to provide out to you via email a financial aid offer. That financial aid offer is generally from schools for 1 year and is renewable for the remaining 3 years. You have to pay attention. Each school may handle it differently, but you'll basically get the financial aid offer from the school, and then you'll get something called a college financing worksheet, which is a federal worksheet that's year-specific. As you receive your financial aid offer, there may be different types of financial aid on there. So we're going to go quickly through that. The first type of aid is gift aid. This is aid that's free, that you don't have to pay back. Gift aid can come from various sources. The federal government has a Pell Grant and an SEOG grant. New York State has a New York State TAP or New York State Scholarship Program. And then the institutions that you're applying to may have grants and scholarships that they offer. You may also be eligible for outside scholarships or tuition reimbursement that you may have done some scholarship searches on your own. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the New York State awards in this next slide. New York State has an Excelsior Scholarship. This covers tuition minus TAP and Pell. Students attending a SUNY or CUNY school may be eligible for this award. There is a cutoff. Families have to have an adjusted gross income of less than $125,000 in order to qualify for this. Another award that's similar to Excelsior Scholarship is the Enhanced Tuition Award. This provides a maximum award of $3,000 from New York State and requires institutions that are participating in this program to match whatever the New York State award is. It is important to understand that if you're a recipient of these awards, you must reside and work in New York State for the length of the time that this award was issued to you. So if you received this award for 2 years, you must reside and work in New York State for 2 years in order to prevent this award from turning into a loan. Then there's self-help aid that will be part of your financial aid offer. There are different types of self-help aid. The first we'll talk about is work study. Work study is basically a job, and it could be an on-campus job or an off-campus job. The institution receives money from the federal government to support students who want to work and pay them. So if you're eligible for this, your institution will advise you of this on your financial aid offer. The next most common type of self-help aid is going to be student loans. Student loans are directly from the federal government. So there is the direct Stafford loan and the direct PLUS loan. The Stafford loan is for students. The PLUS loan is for parents, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next. Federal direct loan eligibility is going to vary based upon the year in school that you are. This slide here is just a reference slide for you, just to let you know what an undergraduate student is eligible to borrow. And again, the student is eligible to borrow in their 4 years as an undergraduate. For example, freshmen or first-year students are allowed to borrow up to $5,500. That can be $3,500 in subsidized loans and $2,000 in unsubsidized loans. Our next slide will demonstrate the difference between what is subsidized and unsubsidized. Subsidized means that the federal government is going to pay the interest on the loan for the student while they're in school at least half time. Unsubsidized means the federal government is not going to pay the interest for the student while they're in school. What makes you eligible for subsidized versus unsubsidized is the need profile that's determined on the FAFSA application. The institution will guide you through that process and make you aware of what you're eligible for. The Parent Plus loan is a loan that's borrowed by the parent for the student. This is a low-rate interest loan directly through the federal government, Currently, the interest rate for this academic year is 6.28. We will know the interest rate for the next academic year, or the 22-23 academic year that you're applying to, over the summer. Eligibility for the Parent Plus loan is a little bit different than the undergraduate direct loans. The eligibility for a plus loan is the cost of attendance, which we referenced earlier in this presentation, minus financial aid. So that could be a pretty large eligibility there based upon what the student is eligible for in financial aid. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about a wonderful tool that you can use to help guide you in your college search process. By law, every school needs to have a net price calculator on their website. With this calculator, you can enter in your information, and again, accuracy is key here, and you will get an output that will estimate what your financial aid would be at that institution. It would also give you an estimate of the direct costs and the indirect costs. It will minus your financial aid, and then you will get your net price. So again, every school has to have this. Two key pieces of information here. The net price calculator is based upon data from the prior year, and it's also based upon the data that you enter in. So always make sure you're entering accurate information. But it's a wonderful tool, and I would recommend everyone to use that in their college search process. Let's talk a little bit about the financial aid packages or financial aid offers that you get here. I know Ms. Peary talked about private institutions versus public institutions and not letting costs prevent you from applying to different schools. And I'd like to demonstrate that in this slide here. So you'll see we have 3 different school types here. We have a CUNY school in the city of New York. We have a SUNY school, which is the state of New York, and we have a 4-year private school. And if you look at the cost of attendances, you'll see, wow, the 4-year private is more than double the CUNY school. The EFC is the same, right? The FAFSA application produces the EFC, and the EFC is the same regardless of what type of institution you attend, whether it's a 2-year community college or whether it's the most expensive 4-year private school in the United States. The EFC stays the same. So our EFC in this example is $4,400. And you'll see the financial need varies from the CUNY school at $17,600 all the way up to $40,600 at the private school. The federal aid is the same. The state aid is pretty much the same between the 3 different school types. However, you'll see the institutional aid is different between the 4 years and the publics. And that's because the 4-year privates are going to have more institutional dollars available to them to assist you than the city or state schools would have. The loans are going to be the same between the different institutions. And then when you get down to the bottom and you look at the total aid versus the cost after aid, you'll see that the costs end up being around the same ballpark after you consider all of the financial aid that was awarded between the different schools. So again, don't prevent cost from preventing you from applying to an institution because you don't know what they will offer you in terms of financial aid. This slide here is just, again, to demonstrate what we spoke about earlier. The higher the cost, when you think about that formula that we use when we determine financial aid, it's cost of attendance minus the EFC. The higher the cost, the higher your need is going to be, the greater the eligibility for financial aid you're going to have. So as we wrap up, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the myths that you may be saying to yourselves. First off, do I need to wait for my child to be accepted to a university or college before I apply for financial aid? And the answer is no. This should be a simultaneous process. As you're applying for admission, you should be applying for financial aid. So don't wait for an admissions decision before you start to complete the financial aid application process. The next myth we have here is my family makes an income over $150,000. I won't qualify for financial aid. You don't know that. The FAFSA is lengthy because the formula is lengthy. So it's not as simple as this is my income, not yet at least. It's not as simple as this is my income, this is what I'm going to get in financial aid. So make sure that you, again, don't prevent income from prevent you from filing the FAFSA and the financial aid applications. We have many families that tell me I don't qualify for financial aid. I know I don't qualify for financial aid, and I ask them, how do you know that? And they usually say, well, I didn't get it here, and you don't know. My response is always going to be, you don't know what an institution is going to award you, whether it be academic aid or gift aid or non-need-based aid. Next myth, filing for financial aid is too complicated for the ordinary person. They need an accountant or financial aid consultant to complete the financial aid forms. And again, that's not accurate. There's plenty of assistance available to you as you go through the application process, be it on the web or calling the FAFSA hotline or even reaching out to the schools. You do not need to have an accountant help you complete the application. And lastly, ask the experts. Who are the experts? Well, your institution that you're applying to, those are the experts. They can help walk you through the process. The federal government, the FAFSA website has a 1-800 number and online help. You can go to your local library, and they also will have references for you. You are in control of the process, so make sure that if you have questions, you reach out and you don't let that be an obstacle to you completing the application process. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to give you sort of a timeline of what you should be doing. October, the applications open up. You should be gathering all of the information that you need to complete those applications and submit them by the school's deadlines. Depending on the application plan or the admission plan that you're applying to, schools are going to review your applications at different times. Generally, if you're a regular decision student, schools are going to start reviewing your applications in February and March. If you're an early decision or early applicant student, we're going to start reviewing your applications around late October, early November. Financial aid offers for the early decision and early action students, those are going to go out beginning late December through January. And for regular decision students, those are going to go out in March. Again, depending on the admission plan you're applying to, you're going to have to make a decision. Usually your decision is going to be May 1. Before that time, you will have all your financial aid offers from your different schools, and you can compare those offers. And then once you commit to an institution, you'll receive your bill for the fall of 2022 in the July timeframe. So in review, make sure you file early, that you know each school's requirements, that you meet the deadlines, don't wait until acceptance to file for financial aid, and if necessary, estimate the information. You can always go back and update the applications. So at this point in time, I'll open it up for any questions that we might have.
There were a couple. One was for properties declared on FAFSA, and it also includes properties owned in foreign countries.
Okay. So I hope everyone heard that question, but the question was for properties owned and that you have to report on the FAFSA. Do you report properties owned in foreign countries? So the FAFSA is going to ask you for property value outside of your primary residence. So I want to first make that clear. You do not have to report the value of the property of the home that's your primary residence. Now, if you have property outside of your primary residence, you have a vacation home, you have a secondary home, you have a home that's an investment property, regardless of where that property is, you have to report the value of it, whether it's domestically or internationally.
And then the only other question, if we have another college student in the family, do we need to complete a separate FAFSA for the Spellman senior?
Wonderful question. The answer is yes. The FAFSA application is an individual application. It's the application for your student. So if you have two students in college, while the parent information might be the same across both applications, the student information is different. So you will need two separate applications for those two students. Great. Thank you very much. Ms. Berry?
I just want to once again thank Mr. Ghanoo for joining us from Fordham University. You gave us a lot of information, and I want to thank the parents for joining us. If you have any questions, you can always email or call the guidance department. The extensions and emails have been provided. And if anyone missed anything during the presentation, this will be on our Cardinal Spellman Bronx YouTube channel. Once again, good night. Have a good evening.